Dust swirled in the air like amber haze as the wanderer rode into the quiet fringes of Dust Vale Canyon. His stallion's hooves thudded against the cracked earth in a steady rhythm, echoing off the weathered wooden fronts of a town half forgotten by time. The years had reshaped everything: the people, the trails, even the scent of the wind. Yet beneath the blistering sky, a faint pull stirred in his chest, a memory he couldn't quite pin down. He tethered his stallion outside the tavern, his rough hands trembling faintly, as if his heart knew something his mind couldn't yet name. Inside, the banjo was silent, the only sound of the soft creak of the swinging door. He was a man carved by sand and sorrow, a tracker who'd long buried softness, who'd left behind more names than he could tally. But as he stepped back into the sunlight, his gaze froze. There, at the far end of the street, stood a woman unlike any he'd seen in years. Her presence seemed to still the very breeze. Her jet-black hair caught the sun's glow, her skin gleamed like warm desert stone, and her silver jewelry shimmered against the soft leather of her doeskin dress, which hugged her form with quiet strength. She glided toward him with the grace of a chieftain, though her bare feet stirred only the faintest dust. For a moment, he thought she might be a mirage born of loneliness, until her voice, calm, low, and hauntingly familiar, carried across the distance. Hey folks, before we dive deeper into this tale, the narrator pauses, voice warm and inviting, hit that like and subscribe button if you're loving this story as much as I am, and drop a comment. Where are you listening from? I'd love to know. The story resumes seamlessly. You don't recall me, wanderer? She said, her eyes locking onto his hooves with the weight of 1,000 sunrises. I'm the girl you once cherished as a child. His words struck him sharper than a dagger. Memories flooded back, the laughter of a young girl by a stream, the way she'd chase fireflies and spin tales of spirits in the gusts. Her name was Celine. He remembered her smile, her curiosity, her fearlessness, and the day it all crumbled. The raid, the flames, the riders who tore their kin from their lands. He'd just been a boy, helpless to stop it. In the chaos, she vanished. He'd carried that guilt through every skirmish, every sleepless night under foreign stars. Celine, he whispered, his voice quaking as he took a hesitant step forward. But her gaze remained steady, unreadable. You left, she said quietly. I rode away while they burned my home. He wanted to protest, to say he was just a boy, that he didn't know where they had taken her, that he'd searched, but the truth caught in his throat. He'd survived by forgetting, and forgetting was its own kind of betrayal. Celine stepped closer, stopping just beyond his reach. Her scent was of earth and wild lavender, the same as in his childhood dreams. You vowed you'd never let the world take me, she said softly. Do you remember that? He nodded, shame tightening his chest. I do. She glanced down, then met his eyes again, hers glistening like polished jet. Then why did you let it? He had no answer. The silence between them was heavy, thick with years of unspoken grief. Okay, let's pause for a second, the narrator interjects, voice bright but respectful of the moment's weight. If this story is hitting you as hard as it's hitting me, smash that like button and subscribe for more. And hey, where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments. The tale picks back up, flowing naturally. Finally, Celine sighed. Her gaze drifted to the distant ridges. This was my home once. Now it's only wind and echoes. The wanderer's throat tightened as he watched her kneel beside a small circle of stones, a memorial. She placed a raven's feather upon it and whispered a prayer in her native tongue. I come here every year, she said, to honor those who didn't make it. When she turned back, her eyes found his again, softer now, but still fierce with quiet power. "You returned, wanderer. Maybe that's enough." He didn't know if it was forgiveness, mercy, or simply exhaustion. But in that moment, under the dying sun, something in him broke open. He removed his hat, his voice low and cracked. "If I could undo it all, I would." Selene nodded faintly. "We can't change what's gone, but we can decide what we do with what's left." As night crept in, she looked up at the stars and smiled faintly. "Maybe that boy I loved isn't gone after all," she whispered. And for the first time in years, the wanderer felt the weight of his past lift, replaced by a fragile, unfamiliar hope. They rode together at dawn, the horizon awash in pale fire. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was alive, breathing with the rhythm of the stallion's hooves and the wind's soft hum. Selene led him through canyons where echoes of her people lingered, where the red rocks held memories of chants, dances, laughter, and loss. The wanderer rode quietly, absorbing it all, feeling the ghosts of history wrap around him like smoke. At a narrow pass, Selene dismounted and pressed her hand against a stone wall carved with ancient symbols. "These etchings," she said, "tell of love that survives time." She turned to him, her expression unreadable. "But love is only real when it's remembered." Her words pierced deep, carrying both accusation and invitation. As they traveled, she learned of her life after the raids, how she was taken by traitors, how she escaped, how the desert had raised her when no one else would. Each word was edged with pain, but carried the dignity of someone who'd never let the world shatter her spirit. He listened, his chest tight with guilt and admiration. "You grew stronger than I ever could," he said quietly. "No, I became what I had to." When they reached the edge of Starling Valley, the same valley where they'd played as children, time itself seemed to pause. The air shimmered with memory. "Do you remember this place?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "It's where you taught me how to listen to the wind," he said, a faint smile crossing his face. She smiled too, a rare softness lighting her eyes. "The wind still speaks. You just stopped listening." They sat by the river as the light faded. She shared stories of her ancestors, of warriors and healers, of balance between the living and the earth. Her voice flowed like the water, gentle yet unstoppable. He watched her, realizing that everything he had sought, redemption, belonging, peace, was right here, in the woman he had once lost. "What do you want from me, Selene?" he asked at last. She studied him for a long moment before answering. "Not promises, just truth." He reached for her hand, rough and trembling. "Then here's the truth," he said. "I never stopped loving you. I just stopped believing I deserved you." The words hung in the air like a prayer. Selene looked at him, and for the first time, the storm in her eyes softened. She didn't speak. She simply leaned her head against his shoulder, letting silence do what words could not. When morning came, the sun rose over the valley, bathing them in gold. Selene stood first, her silhouette framed by the light. "The world will still be cruel, but maybe we don't have to be." The wanderer smiled faintly, settling his hat. "Then let's ride." And they did. Two souls carrying the past, but no longer chained to it, riding toward a horizon where forgiveness and love waited, like the open sky. "Wow, what a journey!" the narrator exclaims, voice brimming with excitement. If this story moved you, give some hype to this video, smash that like button, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Let's spread the love for this tale far and wide.